You know that feeling when you know exactly what you should be doing, you have the plan, you're following the plan, and then suddenly you look back on your day and you're like, why am I not doing that thing? The website's almost done. The batch of videos is still on the to-do list. You still haven't sent the outreach messages. And it's like suddenly you just find yourself scrolling on Instagram. You've been replying to messages all day. You've been building this other asset, building this other system, and that thing is still on your to-do list. The plan that you have was never the problem. There's this gap between your plan and the execution of it. There's this micro moment that keeps happening where you get distracted, where you keep avoiding doing that task. And so today I'm talking about the Signal protocol. It is a 10-second micro routine that you can run inside of your brain every time you notice this desire, this avoidance desire, so that you can keep your focus and actually get that work done and get your revenue growing again. I worked with this agency owner. He came to me asking for, more routine, better organization, better structure. He's been, procrastinating too much, has these tasks that he knows would grow his business, but they keep getting deferred. And he was asking me, how do I make a better plan? I know that if I'm more organized, manage my time better, I would get these things done. And what was interesting was that he said he's made multiple plans. And he said in the same message that his problem is actually that he doesn't follow through on these plans. And so the plan was never the problem. There's something that is pulling you away from the plan. Like you don't need a better plan, better structure, better organization. There's some pattern that keeps happening that is pulling you away from the plan. There's that micro moment where you reach for your phone, where you jump into AI, where you jump into emails, jump into messages instead of doing the harder task that you should be doing. What your body is doing is it's generating discomfort, a feeling. As soon as you get to this sticking point, when you feel that discomfort for the high stakes, the creative, maybe the ambiguous work, the ambiguous task, your body generates discomfort and it reaches for something more certain with a positive reward. It does something more productive, an easy task, emails, something with visible progress, instead of pushing through the harder task. Some signal is firing in your body and you have no interruption to the pattern. So some signal happens, then your pattern runs, and suddenly you're scrolling on Instagram, doing something else, and ending your days knowing what you should be doing, but that you're not doing it. Our goal is to interrupt this pattern. And this is what the Signal protocol does. You imagine this as a loop, a pattern. Some trigger happens first. You feel some ambiguity towards the task that you're doing, some fear. Maybe there's some exposure risk. Maybe there's a threat to your identity. And that trigger turns into a signal in your body. Maybe you feel restlessness, your chest tightens, maybe you get some brain fog and you hear let me just do this. And that signal turns you into an escape. Reach for your phone, check emails, go to AI instead, do some other task. And that escape creates relief from that tension that you felt. And your brain starts to code that as a reward. You feel the progress. You get a little bit of a dopamine hit from doing something. And that creates this pattern where this trigger happens. You feel this signal of restlessness, discomfort, and instead of maintaining your focus, you jump to something else which produces a good feeling for you. And the most dangerous part about all of this is that the thing that you do instead is always productive in some way. Every business owner that I work with, the busy work that they do instead is still progressing in some way, going through emails, replying to messages, updating the offer doc. It's all productive in some way. And so in that moment, you feel like you're making progress. But when you look back, you see that task that would make you money is still waiting there, being deferred. And so this is the Signal protocol. It's the second component when you install Signal OS into your life and into your workflow to stop this main bottleneck that keeps your revenue flat, keeps you procrastinating. There are 6 steps to this. The first one is noticing it, catching the thought, catching the desire to reach for your phone. And this is why it's so important that you've trained what I call the micro gap already, that you have this gap between your thought and action. If you don't have this space, I'll link to another video where you can train this gap, because if you're not able to catch these thoughts, then you can't do any of this. It is the prerequisite to this protocol. The second is pausing, catching the thought, hearing the, oh, I should just check my Instagram notifications, and pausing, taking your hands off your laptop, hands off your phone, sitting there, and for 10 seconds, allowing yourself to feel that desire and not do anything with it. When you start to do this, you notice that every impulse, every feeling lasts for like 8 to 12 seconds. And so your goal in this is not to push through and fight it for like minutes or hours. You have to last 10 seconds and then the impulse goes away. After pausing, you name the feeling, the signal inside of your body. Are you feeling bored, restless? Is there some fear? Is there some tightness that you're feeling? And then you identify why this signal came up. This is where it's helpful to go through the 4 C's of follow through. If you haven't watched that video, I'll link it down below as well. Do you have clarity? Do you have capacity right now? Are your conditions set up in your environment, or is this a courage problem? Many times from the people I work with, it's either a clarity or courage problem. So either the task is too vague and you need to clarify the exact next step, or there's some courage problem. There's some fear, there's some emotional weight, some risk towards sending the message, doing the video that is inhibiting you from moving. And so the 5th part is shrinking down the next actual action. What is the next physical action that you can do? Define it super specific. If it's a courage problem, allow yourself to integrate and feel that emotion. And then the 6th is re-engage and start moving again. All of this takes like 10 to 15 seconds. The hard part is just catching the thought and getting yourself to run this routine in your mind every time it happens. And so you imagine like sitting down, I'm gonna make a video, and then you sit down at your laptop and suddenly there's some feeling of like, oh, let me jump into AI, check my Instagram notifications, and suddenly 45 minutes is lost. If you had run this signal protocol, when you sat down and you felt that restlessness and tightness and caught the thought to jump into AI, to jump into your phone, and name the feeling, identified that, oh, actually this is a clarity problem of my next actual action is not specific enough. Then you can define that and get back into momentum and maintain your focus doing that. What I notice from the people that I work with, calls that I get on, is that almost always the work, the tasks that we avoid doing are the ones that are closest to making money, getting cash in our pockets, because there's some emotional weight to that. There's some visibility risk, there's some rejection risk, and we spend all of this time doing these other things instead of doing that work. And so this avoidance is actually costing us money. And so imagine if you ran this signal protocol 3 times in your deep work blocks, instead of being interrupted and losing the average 23 minutes from that distraction. You've now saved yourself 1 hour of focused, high ROI productive time. Think about how valuable that time is, especially when you focus it towards the tasks that actually make you the money. And the real long-term effect of doing this is you start to rebuild your self-trust around the identity that you have to follow through on what you say you're gonna do. You become someone who actually follows through and stays focused, stays consistent, and you start not needing these hacks anymore. You can maintain your focus, be on your laptop with your phone next to you. You can be on Instagram, post, send some messages, and not get into this scrolling for 45 minutes, because you're able to catch these thoughts and redirect your focus towards what you are doing and what you need to be doing, instead of continuing to be pulled away from it. Bottom line of all of this is you don't need a better plan, better structure, organization to your routine. You just need a protocol that catches every time you try to abandon your plan and interrupt that pattern. That is the real work to be done. If you want to learn more about the other components of installing Signal OS into your life, into your workflow, to remove this main bottleneck that keeps your revenue flat, shoot me a message on Instagram, Signal, and we'll start the conversation there. That's all I got for you in this video. I'll see you in the next one.